What up, people of the internet? What up? What is good? How's everybody doing on this fan-freaking-tastic Thursday evening? Huh? Huh? We're live. We're back. We're all freaking over the place. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. And we're on Twitter. I know. That's crazy. Crazy. It's crazy, I said. Anyways, what's happening, everybody? How's everybody doing? I hope everyone's having a fan-freaking-tastic day. It's Thursday, 28 October, 1906 hours. We're only 6 minutes late to the stream. I know. Incredible. Boom. It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of redonkulous. No, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I ain't going to lie. It's a little crazy. It's a little crazy. Only 6 minutes late to the broadcast. 6 minutes. 6 minutes. I think it's a record. It's a record. It's a record. It's got to be a record. Anyways, we got some stuff going on today. We're doing all kinds of things. We're doing things. We're actually doing interesting things. We're going to play some games later on tonight. But right now, we're going to talk a little bit about the WSL. Oh? Really? The WSL, you say? Indeed. Indeed, I do say. A long time ago, in a stream that looked much different than this one, we talked about the WSL. We did. We talked about the WSL. We had a blog post that we put up forever ago on pesnots.com. Forever ago. And by forever, I mean looks like I published it November 10th, 2020. But anyways, on this blog post, we talked about using the WSL to restream for free, right? If you're not familiar with the WSL, hold on, let me pull up a browser. Let's do that. Let's pull up a browser. Let's pull up a browser. So we can talk about the WSL and all of its phantasmagoricalness. Let's see. All right. Phantasmagoricalness established. But ow. Pesnots.com. Boom. Here we are. This is the pesnots.com. Good old pesnots.com. If you've not been here, check it out. We got a whole bunch of the different things here. From everything from the windscreen upgrade we did to our handy dandy Shure microphone to how to make freaking waffles. So, you know, all kinds of shit. Anyways, this is the blog post we were talking about. Multi-streaming with the Windows built on the WSL. Right? Pretty simple. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. It's built into Windows. Windows 10, Windows 11. It's good to go. Anyways, the WSL basically is it allows you to run a Linux-like environment inside of your Windows environment. So you can install the WSL. With the WSL, you get a Linux image. It runs a Windows kernel. And you get basically a Linux environment that you can tinker with. Inside of that Linux environment, you can run applications. Those applications have networking. That networking allows you to do all kinds of fun, interesting, and exciting things with. So we talked about that. Talked about installing the WSL, getting the images. I'm not going to cover this again because, like I said, we've talked about this before. But today, what we're doing is actually pretty interesting because if we fire over into our Woosole, this is our WSL shell, which we have running our environment that is being streamed across the 3 different platforms right now, right? And you can see this is the network throughput that we're dealing with, right? We are currently sending around 12 megabit per second to the intertubes, right? Not a huge thing, but my service provider only gives me 20 as an upload. So that's my cap. I can't go above it. I definitely can go below it, but I can't go above it. So I'm trying to stick within that 20 and have a plenty of headroom to do other things, right? So inside of my WSL shell, inside of my environment, which I am live streaming to you all right now on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, I am doing so with Nginx and FFmpeg. Now, what's cool about that is Nginx is pretty much it's ubiquitous. It lets you install or lets you run a web server, right? Inside of that, we've got the ability to do RTMP. So if we go back to our handy dandy little blog post that we did a while back, we talk about, installing Nginx and this libmod RTMP module. And then we talk about, setting up all of the different services. Well, if you do this right out of the box, just as the blog post said up until this point, you would be streaming whatever OBS is broadcasting at. Let's call it 6K, 6,000 is your bit rate, 1080p at 60 frames per second, right? You'll be streaming that to all of the different hosts that you have here if you use this all live, built-in, which sends it all out. Well, that's not ideal. And in fact, if I were to do that inside of what I have going on right now, I would need an upload of at least 24 megabit per second. And so that's not going to work, right? Because I'm streaming to YouTube right now at 8K, 1080p, 60 frames per second. So I want to knock that down a little bit to my other services, right? Not only do I want to funnel my traffic to YouTube, but I also want to stream a lower bit rate to my other services out there so that I'm not just taking up all of my headroom, all of my bandwidth. So here's where the interesting things come in, right? I updated the blog post today to talk about advanced stream encoding, right? Which is fancy words for taking the stream data that I get out of OBS and re-encoding it using FFmpeg, right? FFmpeg, bada bing, bada boom. So first thing we talk about building it. Well, what's really cool is that inside of the WSL, we can use our graphics card. Let's just say that again. It's worth saying again. Inside of the WSL, we can use our hardware to do all kinds of fun things. In fact, NVIDIA, well, I have an RTX 3090, but the NVIDIA has worked with Microsoft to ensure that you can use the GPU inside of the WSL. That means you can run Linux applications with native hardware inside of Windows. That's freaking fantastic because just like in OBS, you can use the NVENC encoder, right? I'm using the NVENC encoder right now. This is being broadcast to you over the NVENC encoder. The NVENC encoder makes life stupid easy. And if I take a look at my little, my task manager, which is right in there, it's lower right-hand corner. But if I take a look at my task manager, my video encoder, the encoder on my RTX graphics card is only about 55% being used, right? 55% being used. And I made a little video before going live this evening. Let's see here. I can share that video. I made a little video before going live this evening to show what it was before I was simulcasting to everybody, right? Right? How much encoding was I doing before I was doing all of this re-encoding and schlepping out across the wire? So here we'll take a look at the window capture. Dun, 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 dun. Where is it? Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so here's a little video that I made right before going live, right? It was kind of showing some terminal output as well as my encoder settings. And if you look real hard and squint, you'll notice it's currently at 52% when I was doing the recording. And at this moment in time, it's around 43%. Nah, it's going up and down. 54, 43, hanging around there. So the encoder is not being overtaxed by doing all of this. We're just re-encoding what we've already encoded, which is incredible. So I have my headroom, my outgoing rate being right now hovering around 12K or 12 meg. I have my encoder encoding, and I'm able to do all of this via the WSL. So let's go back to our little handy browser. So we do have to install some packages in order to make all of this work, right? And so I covered the packages you have to install. And it's the repository you have to get, some headers you have to install, FFmpeg that you have to get, and then how to install FFmpeg. And then I talk about the stanza, right? So inside of that, you can see we're using FFmpeg. We have our vsync and is set to 0. We've got the input coming along from my little multi stream transcode, which is what I've named this, and then nvenc out, and then to Twitch in this case for the example. So here's the Houston endpoint with my Twitch key, which I'm not going to show you my Twitch key, but I am going to show you that there would be a key there. And I'm going to show you a more up-to-date example of the actual config that I'm running right now. But we talk about the config, and that's all there is to it, right? So in this first line, I'm doing a pass-through. Straight up, everything that OBS produces, I'm pushing straight to YouTube. Second line, I'm taking the information that OBS is providing and then transcoding it on the fly, knocking it down to 720, and then schlepping it over to Twitch. So over on my Twitch stream, you guys are seeing a 720, or yeah, it's 1280, right? So 720p broadcast right now. And I mean, I'm watching it in another browser window, and it looks good. And if you're watching it on mobile, you know what? I'll challenge that you probably can't even tell the difference. But yes, it looks good, right? It looks okay. It looks not bad. Like, sure, could it be crisper? Absolutely. Could it be tighter? Could it be 60 frames per second? Could it be, all of those things to make a beautiful broadcast? Absolutely. Which you can see on my YouTube channel, peasants.com/YouTube. But the broadcast looks good. It looks good. But if you jump over onto Twitter, you see the same feed that I'm sending over into Twitch. The same feed. The same feed, folks. The same feed. All being encoded with the same hardware. Ta-da! Thus endeth the trick. So, let's take a look at our handy-dandy WSL. And we'll take a look at the real-life config, minus my keys, right? Because I'm just not going to show you that. because I'm not an idiot. Anyways, well, I am an idiot, but, I'm not a big idiot. Da-ba-da, nginx.conf. So this is the real life config that I'm using right now, redacted for keys. So OBS is sending the traffic to application Pez. Pretty simple. That takes the signal that I get out of OBS and sends it over to YouTube, which is using the YouTube secure RTMP. From that, it's taking the traffic as well, a second stream of the traffic, right? One set of packets and basically doing two things with it. Hardware accelerating that through my CUDA cores, which is my RTX graphics card. Ingesting the feed that comes from Pez. Transcoding it to 720p. Copying the audio straight across, just as it is right now. Limiting the bit rate to 2.5 megabit, right? So 2,500. Buffer size of 3 with a max rate of 3. So it's a variable bit rate. So at in times where the output is not as dynamic like it is right now, we come back over into our traffic. We can see the outgoing rate is sitting around 11. Right? It was as high as 15. Now it's 11. And then we can see that it sends the signal back out to the simulcast application. The simulcast application sends the feed straight up, exactly as it was encoded, to both Twitch and Twitter. RIP Periscope. Epson chat for Periscope. But it sends it straight over into Twitter. So here we are. I've got 3 streams, 15K upload, and that's our max. That's what we will not exceed that. Right? So with my 20 megabit per second upload that, Spectrum provides me, knowing that I have Spectrum service, I don't want to ever get near that upper limit. So I have 15K as or 15 meg rather, is my maximum throughput. I will not go larger than that. But by using the GPU, I get a nice, crisp looking stream on both Twitter and Twitch, costing me around 5 megabit to do both of them. And then to YouTube, it gets all the rest. And that's it. Thus endeth the trick. Using the WSL for our restreaming purposes. So back over into our little browser, we talk about little scaling and broadcasting and why that's, important and useful and et cetera, et cetera. But it was a little update that I did to the blog post from last year using the WSL to restream. The WSL is super powerful. Like, I can use the WSL for development purposes. It has integrations into VS Code. It has integrations into all kinds of fantastic things. And if we take a look at, our NVIDIA WSL setup, CUDA on the WSL, right? This is all we're doing. This is what we're doing right now. Very simple. It's part of what NVIDIA provides. And what's even cooler, like if you read through all of this, you'll eventually get to the part where it's like, well, you must install drivers. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't actually have to install their CUDA drivers. You can use the GeForce Experience drivers, which is exactly what I'm using right now. I'm using the Game Ready driver because I play games because I'm a nerd. So, if we come back to our handy dandy desktop here, we can see I am currently running the Game Ready driver 496.49. I'm sure that the CUDA driver comes with some pretty cool capabilities that maybe I'm not taking advantage of, but I don't need them. So I got that going for me, which is nice. Game Ready driver, ready to go. Bada bing, bada boom. So yeah, that's that. The WSL. It's something that I was tinkering with for the last few days. And if you guys are, over in, have been following the stream for the last few days, there's been some days where it was a little glitchy. Because I was figuring some shit out as I was rewriting my blog post. There's been some days it was a little glitchy, and I'm sorry about that. But those days should be behind us now. Those days should be over. Because here we are, streaming in vivo, and I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think so. I think it looks good. Yo, dog. Anyways, so yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Multi-streaming with the WSL. Multi-streaming with the WSL. It's pretty neat. The WSL is something that I have been tinkering with for a long time. In fact, when I was writing the blog post originally, the WSL was something that I used on Windows 10, and it was the first version of the WSL, WSL v1. And, I've added some notes for WSL v2, which is recommended if you're on Windows 10. One of the frustrating things, though, for folks over on Windows 10 is that you have to have Windows Pro in order to run the WSL, or you did, right? On Windows 11, you don't. In fact, my laptop, which is an older X1 Carbon, is running the home edition of Windows 10 or Windows 11, and it's running this WSL v2 just fine. Everything's perfect. So I guess when Microsoft fixed that, right, in that you don't have to run professional Windows in order to get the WSL. You can run with Home or Pro, which is awesome, right? And that means that capability, that functionality that you're missing when it comes to being able to access applications through the WSL is available to you in Windows 11, which is a free upgrade for most people, right? So that's a win. If you go through this blog post, you'll notice, there's some PowerShell commands and you have to run some things. It's not hard to do any of this stuff by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. But it does take some time. When I did spell that out in all of the different things that you have to run, like you could probably just copy and paste all these things and it'll work. But something that I have not documented in this blog post yet, which I'll update for Windows 11 now that I'm updating this blog post. But, if you go into the WSL docs, it was 9/27/2021 updated. And why was that? Because now you can just run WSL -- install. It's pretty easy. So PowerShell, run as administrator, WSL -- install. That's it. Thus ended the trick. It'll pull the latest images, tell you that you need to reboot your computer, and ta-da, you're done. So it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat indeed. It's pretty neat. If you guys are using the WSL, let me know. Let me know in chat. Or if you're over on the YouTube side and you happen to take a look at everything we've got going on, leave a comment. WSL is interesting, and it provides for some fantastic capabilities. And in this case, we're able to perform all of our restreaming stuff. We're basically able to transcode and re-encode our entire stream to 3 different locations, all on the WSL using my one computer without taking an impact or hit to my CPU, my graphics processing, the video decoding, anything, right? The GPU is Sure, it's encoding. It's using 54% of the encoder chip, which is, that's not nothing, but it's not going to impact my gameplay, which we're going to do in a little bit. So it's very cool, and it's something to be excited about. It's something that I think Microsoft is doing very well. I'm a straight up Linux nerd. I love my Linux. I do Linux things. I work in Linux all the time. So, like my daily driver computer is running Fedora. Like that's just my life. And so to see that Microsoft is doing this well, basically bringing the WSL to Windows and providing a fantastic experience in doing so. Like I love Linux, but discrete GPUs in Linux kind of sucks. Straight up, it kind of sucks. Now I can use the Windows drivers, which are arguably superior in every way. I'm sure that some Linux person's out there are going to be like, Rob, it's pretty good if you follow. No, you know what? It's just better in Windows. But I can take my discrete graphics card and use it in where I am most comfortable in a Linux shell. And I don't have to mess around with drivers or worry that it doesn't work, because it works. It's awesome. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the first part of this stream tonight. Talking about Windows, talking about the WSL, and talking about how we're currently live on all three: Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, powered by the WSL. One more time, looking at our handy dandy, fancy schmancy terminal. That's it. This is the extent of the config that is required in order to simulcast to all three services and not consume all of the bandwidth that I have available, right? Currently at 14. Ain't no thing but a chicken wing. It's pretty neat. So let's change gears. Let's yeah. We're gonna change gears. I'm going to change the chapter up on our YouTube stream and on the Twitter stream. And we're gonna go play some Guardians of the Galaxy. I think I figured out our configs. I think we are finally in a good situation where we're not going to go get our, that disco effect we were seeing the other day. The disco effect is enough to drive me crazy. It's enough to make me not want to play the game. I'm going to be honest. But I worked on the config, and I made some changes into the 3D settings itself inside of the NVIDIA setup. And so, yeah, we're going to do that. Oh, look at that. Talking about changes, it looks like there was a patch fix for black screen, increased stability for extended play sessions. Let's hope it is sucking less. All right, I'm gonna close my chapters up. Give me a second. How's chat doing tonight? How's everybody feeling? Hope you guys are having a good evening. You guys are having a good evening. I am. Had a good evening. It was had a good day at work. The old job was good. Got a lot done. A lot accomplished, I feel like. We'll see. We'll see. Tomorrow's Friday. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to the good old Friday. You guys got anything fun going on this weekend? I don't. I have to mow the lawn. It's like a freaking jungle. Not looking forward to that, like, at all. All right, YouTube folks, we'll be right back.